Hi, everybody. My name is Richard.lesperance, and I go by the name of My Man Richard. Today, we're going to talk about flipping houses. So, if it's something that you ever thought about doing, this is going to be a show for you. So, I have Marcus Maloney with me here. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right.
Yes, sir. You got it. You got it.
Thanks. Yes, so he's doing some great stuff in the real estate world. So he has a lot of insights and experience. So he's gonna share that. He's gonna share that with us. So welcome to the podcast. Welcome to a better lifestyle. Marcus, tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, and we'll get started.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me, my man, Richard. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you for allowing me to speak to the Welcome to the Better Lifestyle audience, man. I'm truly excited about being here, speaking to the audience because, before we got started, we talked briefly. I have a background in real estate, background in finance, background in business. So we can take this podcast in any direction that you want to go into. But you know what, just to give you my background, right? So I grew up just outside of Chicago on a 49-acre farm. My grandfather was from grandparents were from the South, from Mississippi. My mom was from Mississippi, and my dad was from Central America in Panama. And one of the things that we always were taught was, you have to create your own opportunities. And when you see those opportunities, you have to capitalize on those opportunities. And that's one of the things that I took in business. And how they taught us that was going back to school. Most kids, they go out with their parents, they go back to school clothes shopping, and the parents get them all of the nice new stuff. Well, we had to work for it and we had to invest for that. So what do I mean by we had to invest for that? So starting at an early age, like I said, growing up on this farm, we used to purchase piglets at the end of the school year. So we would go to the auction and purchase these pigs for $10, $15. And then our responsibility was to feed them, take care of them, make them grow. And then we would take them back to that auction in early September and sell those piglets. So we would buy them for $10 to $15, feed them. We would have light overhead because pigs will eat anything, right? And then we would take them back to the auction and they would gain, literally about 200 pounds just in a matter of months. So we went from purchasing at $10 to $15 and then turning around and selling them for $250, $300. So that was my introduction into investing, right? So you buy low and you sell high with minimal overhead. So that was a way for me to be introduced into investing. And then I took that on into my life, those same common core principles. So everybody that's listening, there's only a few core principles in business that you need to know. And one of them is, buy low, sell high, build great rapport and relationships with people in your industry. And finally, be a good person, be a good steward of what God has blessed you with. And those are, the three things that I really, really stand on, throughout my investing career. So learning from that, right? Learning buy low, sell high. I was always an entrepreneur. I used to take things to school, sell things at school. We used to sell, little beads on paper, on safety pins that people would put in their shoes. So it was always something that was ingrained in me. My dad, being from Central America, moved to the States. And one of the things that he would always say is, you got to see the opportunity that surrounds you. Because growing up in Panama, he didn't have the wealth of opportunities that he had here in the States. And us being, it's me and my brother. So him having two boys, it was always maximize these opportunities. So he really taught us how to see opportunities, how to maximize those opportunities and build a business from there. So that's kind of the foundation. Well, not kind of, but my man, Richard, that's the foundation that was laid before me and my brother and my cousins, and we kind of built from that. And not only that, my grandparents and my mom, they were always very entrepreneurial. My grandfather lived on the west side of Chicago, and he had concrete businesses, asphalt businesses, landscaping businesses, all laundromats. So we always saw that the best way, is to work for yourself. Why go and build someone else's business when you can build your own? Naturally, everybody can't start from building your own, but you got to take what you have. And that's one of the things that I always like to tell people is to evaluate what you have, because everybody have something to start out with. You have to identify what it is you have to start with and then invest that. And what I mean by invest that is not always money. It may be a skill set that you have. It may be, a connection that you have. It may be, a characteristic that you have. You have to be able to identify who you are and what you have and use that to push you along in your career. So with that being said, Richard, my mom, how I got into real estate was my mom, she was working a full-time job at the time, great benefits, working for the state of Illinois, one of the only Black head nurses in a governmental residential facility. And she was making great money. And she walked off the job because she had a passion to do something else. And we didn't understand it. My dad, he didn't understand it, but he always supported her in her endeavors. And one of her first investments was she bought 2 raggedy houses. When I say raggedy, Richard, I mean one was a fire damage house to where, it was like needed to be completely gutted. We didn't understand it. Me and my brother and my cousins, the only thing we knew was, man, this is work for us, right? Because us being the young men, that's all. We were the labor force. We would work with the contractors and everything like that. We wouldn't get paid. It was just our manly duties and our manly responsibilities. And then the other one was just an old house that was, brick. It was raggedy and everything like that. But she put the sweat equity into it, took some of the money that she made from her job when she left her job and invested into these 2 properties. One, she turned around, flipped, and sold about 8 months later. And she showed us a check for like $30,000-$40,000. I can't remember the number exactly, but this was not recently, right? This was in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. So fixing and flipping wasn't a thing. There was no, flip this house or HGTV or anything like that. She just had a gut feeling, and she leaned on that premonition, and she really got started from there. So one, she flipped, got a huge check. And then the other one, we still hold in our portfolio to this day. So we have owned that property for over 30 years, and it has cash flow continuously, month after month after month, year after year. And she bought both of these properties for under $10,000. So you take a $10,000 investment, right? And you put another $15,000, $20,000 into the property and turn around and sell it and make a $30,000 to $40,000 profit. And then the other one, same thing, bought for under 10 grand, probably put 40 to 50 into it. So now we're all in at 60, but we held that property for 30 years. And that property has made us literally over $500,000, just that one property in its own. And what I looked at from that, right? Richard, and stop me when you need, because I get excited about this because I really enjoy the foundation that was laid before me. But one of the things that I got a chance to look at is flipping versus holding. Flipping a property, yes, you get that instant gratification, you get that instant check, but holding is where the wealth building activity is. So if we would have sold both of those properties, yes, we probably would have made $60,000. But if you look at one we sold and flipped, made 30, but the other one we held and made nearly $500,000. That's why I'm a firm believer in buying and holding, even though I do fix and flip as well. But my end goal is to fix and flip, take that cash, so then we can turn around and buy more properties to hold. So in a nutshell, I know I gave your listeners a whole lot, but that was kind of my dynamics of how I got started. Trust me, I was a high school dropout, dropped out of high school 3 months before it was graduation, because I felt that I had a learning disability, but I didn't. It was just what the schools was teaching me just wasn't interesting. I was always had that entrepreneurial background. So I would challenge our teachers and say, hey, you know what? How is this going to help me in the future? Me learning about Christopher Columbus, how is this going to help me make money in the future? And to them, that was being rebellious. Follow the status quo, get your A's and your B's, and then you move on. Well, for me, I always took a different path, and my family always knew I took a different path. And I'm glad I took a different path, because me dropping out of high school 3 months before graduation, guess what I did, Richard? I said, you know what? I know I'm not a dumb person. I know I have the wits, the ingenuity, and the innovation to do what I want to do when I want to do it. So I got up one morning and I said, you know what? I'm just going to go and take the general education test just to see if I can pass it and get my GED. Had no intentions of passing or anything like that. I was just going to fill the test out and see what I needed to study for. Lo and behold, this was probably 2 months after dropping out of high school. I went and took the test and I passed the test. So now I went from the back of the class being a F student, not thinking that I'm going to graduate, to now already being a high school graduate before my classmates that were A and B students even got their diploma. So that also taught me, take the non-traditional approach, Marcus, because by taking that non-traditional approach and going the way that you want to go is going to lead you in a direction that you need to go into. So there were quite a bit of things that I learned at an early age. Now, was everything successful? Absolutely not. I went through some hard times, even after I told myself to take the non-traditional approach. I went to college, tried college. It didn't work, in the beginning. But then as I matured, I went back to college, got my MBA and everything like that. And now I sit back and I reflect and I say, okay, when you went to school and got your MBA, was it because it was something that you wanted to do, or was it something because that was the status quo? And for me, now I'm thankful that I have my MBA, but I believe it was because of me just following the status quo. Do I use it to this day? Yes, I use it in some capacity when it comes to running numbers and doing spreadsheets and understanding my ROI on investments and everything like that. Yes, but for traditional approach, no, I don't typically don't use it. So saying all of that to let your listeners know in the beginning, yes, take the non-traditional approach. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be many roadblocks. There's going to be heartaches. There's going to be headaches. There's going to be times where you think, am I doing the right thing? But if you follow what you truly feel inside, it'll lead you to that pot of gold and your ultimate passion in the
end. Great introduction.
Sorry, you got to stop me, my man. Richard,
no, but
I could go on.
No, but it was full, so it was perfect. So it was perfect. Don't worry about it. So how do you? What's your strategy when it comes to flipping, like acquiring and all that, like the finance? What's your strategy?
Sure. You know what? One of the things that I always tell people is that relationships are key and most important. Okay, so the strategy that we use is we look for off-market opportunities. So we don't go to the MLS too much to look for deals. We do direct mail or we do cold calling, and we want to go direct to seller. So we'll pull a list and we'll find some key identifiers. So it may be a landlord that owned a property for over 10 years. They may be starting to get tired of being a landlord and they want to sell that property, or we'll reach out to that individual. So these are some of the grassroots things that we do to get in front of sellers. And then we just make the pitch. Hey, Mr. Seller, are you interested, in selling? And if so, let's have a conversation and see if our number is conducive to what you're looking for. And if so, give us the opportunity to buy the property. So that's one of the things that we do as far as the acquisitions. We go direct to seller. And I have a whole program on how we go direct to seller and find these properties below market value. So, for example, I recently bought a property where nobody else wanted to take a shot at it. It was a duplex 2-unit. Bought it for $54,000, put around $15,000 into it. So we're all in at 70, but one unit makes $1,100 a month. The other unit makes $775 a month. So we're going to hold that property long term. So now on a $70,000 investment, we're making $1,800 gross on that one property. So that's one way. Now, as far as financing, Richard, we either go to small community banks. We have relationships. That's one of the things that I want to tell your sellers is relationships are key. You keep hearing me saying that because it's so true. We go to small community banks. We build those relationships with those banks, and we get the financing from those banks. They in the beginning, they require 20% down, traditional finance. And now, because we have that long lasting relationship with them, sometimes we can come in at 5% or 10% down of the acquisition, turn a property and get it rented. So that's one means of financing. The other means of financing is through our network and relationships. Like we did a fix and flip where it was absolutely no money out of our pocket. We knew some relationships, talked to a guy, and he was like, yes, I see what you're doing because of, my Instagram and social media presence. Say, hey, it looks like you're getting good returns on your investments. I have, $150,000 that I'm willing to invest with you, as long as I get a return. And that return, that investment, again, is backed by real estate. They have a deed of trust on the property. So if anything goes awry, they can always take the property. And because we buy the properties at a significant discount, they're already going into the property with equity. So in the event something goes terribly wrong where we have never ever not returned an investor their profit margins back to them, they can always take that property, resell it on the open market, traditionally with an agent, and recoup their initial investment plus profits. So we build these relationships with small community banks, with private lenders, and we built our business on that strategy when it comes to financing.
What would you say is the profit margin, the ROI on flipping houses?
So normally we look for 30% ROI. Yes, we have done some deals where the margins were a little bit thinner because as the market shifts, you have to shift with the market. And this was right before COVID. No, not right before COVID. I'm sorry. Right before the interest rates bumped up, we had one asset that we were holding. We were doing a fix and flip. And then we immediately, and I talked to my partner, I said, look, the market is shifting. Let's get out of this property. Let's sell it. As long as we make our money back, let's sell it. So we didn't make a dime on that property, but our investors got their 30% profit back on that asset. So never went into a deal where we lost money. Always been profitable on each deal, or we've broken even on deals. So yes, we look for that 30% margin if possible.
How many flips you do in a year?
Wow, you know what? Quite a few. And it's hard to give you a hard number, Richard, because we do multiple strategies. So we'll either fix and flip it. We're either wholesale a property where we get the property under contract, and that property may not meet our specs, or let's just say that 30% threshold as a profit, but we may know somebody that's in our network that say, hey, you know what? I'll purchase that property. So what we'll do is we'll say, okay, we bought the property. Let's just use round numbers, got the property under contract for $100,000. It may be worth, 225, but it needs a ton of work. Some other investor may say, hey, you know what? I'll buy that property from you for $125,000. So we'll get that delta, $25,000, and then they'll get the property, they'll do all of the rehab and everything like that. We're doing more of that because of the instability of the market when it comes to interest rates. So we're doing more of that. But again, our whole strategy is buy and hold. We want to hold properties because that's where the real wealth is.
What are some challenges that you've encountered along the way?
You know what? Market shifts. You definitely have to be in tune with the market. So let's just say 2019 is a totally different market from 2021, and 2021 is a totally different market than 2023. So 2019, the appreciation on properties was going up, but it wasn't going up as fast as it did in 2021. 2021, you could possibly take down any property and make a profit on it. Well, now 2023 and the back half of 2022, as interest rates rose up, the opportunities became a lot less thin. So it's just knowing that market. And I'm not saying time the market, but I'm saying just be a student of what's happening in the real estate market in your specific area, because what's happening in, let's just say, Montreal, Canada is totally different than what's happening in Phoenix, Arizona, which is totally different than what's happening in Little Rock, Arkansas. So I say always be a student of the market. So that's one of the challenges is, the unpredictability of the market. Number two, some of the challenges when it comes to fixing and flipping, before we had the supply chain issues. So it was definitely really, really hard, to get, drywall and 2x4s and lumber and everything like that. And the prices went up. So not only did the market change, but also you had bottlenecks in supply chain, and the prices of materials went up considerably. So you have to underwrite to those measures. And sometimes people make the mistake and they don't underwrite to what's going to happen or trying to forecast what's going to happen, 5 or 6 months down the line. So those are some of the challenges that we face, but by doing this, for over a decade now, we're not starting, but we have a great track record on what we do, what we see, and we try and produce a product that most buyers will like. That way it's not so niche specific.
What are some mistakes that you made along the way?
Mistakes, hiring the wrong contractors. That's one of the things to where, you have a project and you have a project timeline to where you say, okay, we should be in and out of this house in 5 months. And because you hired the wrong contractor, or because I hired the wrong contractor, it took 9 months, took 10 months in order to move that asset. Luckily, and this is by the grace of God, that this was 2021. So the market was constantly appreciating. So the longer we held that property, the more the value was going up on that property. So what was actually a negative turned out to be a positive in our favor. But yeah, hiring the wrong contractors is a big issue that you will have when you're going into fixing and flipping. And then when it comes to buy and hold, it's just making sure you vet your tenants correctly and making sure you vet your property managers correctly. Because again, the wrong property manager can put the wrong tenant in your property, and it can take you a few months to get that tenant out, which decreases your ROI on that asset.
And what are some valuable lessons that you've learned throughout your journey in the real estate?
Sure. One of the most valuable things that I believe is the true belief, right? Believing you have the capacity, the capability, and the audacity to do what you dream of doing. So if you dream of fixing and flipping a property Believe that you can do that, and then go out and find the resources. If you have to pay somebody to be in relationship with them that's doing something that you would like to do, then that's something that you need to do. I'm a firm believer in education, right? But not the traditional education. My firm belief is work with somebody that's doing something that you would aspire to do and be a resource to them. So if they need you to do something, find that person and go and be that resource for them, because now you can glean from their experience, their expertise, and start building your company in that same direction. So when I got into real estate, I had my mom that I could look at. She didn't know everything that she was doing. She was doing this by accident. So I saw the belief. That's one thing that I learned from her, is the belief. And then I went and I found mentors that knew it. I want to say scientifically. They had the spreadsheets, they had the numbers, they had the philosophy and the key performance indicators down packed. So now I grabbed the belief from my mom. Hey, you know what? You can accomplish and do anything that you set out to do. And then I look to them, to the other party, for all of the nuances that was missing from what my mom was teaching me, and put it together and really built, a business and a portfolio that we're really proud of. So it's putting these things together and, taking all of these ingredients and making that perfect cake.
And what are some stuff that you're working right now at the moment?
So right now, our family, we're really doing the residential group homes. I haven't even talked about this much, but we also, one of the things that my mother did, being an entrepreneur, along with my grandmother, they built a social service agency. And right now we're servicing minors from the ages of 13 to 20, helping those young men and young ladies get back on their feet. So we're doing some social good, and we're tying it with real estate. So we buy properties, and then we get contracts from the state to house minors in these properties to help them get started on the right track. So they may have went through a failed adoption, or they had some kind of abuse that they were dealing with, and we house these individuals. And then we have therapists and everything like that to work with them, so they can now become productive citizens within our communities. So that's one of the things that we're doing currently. So we're marrying our social good with our real estate, and really being holistic in our approach to helping people and building a profitable real estate company.
Where can people find you on social media or the internet?
Man, all over. You can go to MRCS Maloney. That's MRCS Maloney on all social media platforms: YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Facebook. You can find me there. And then I also have a podcast called the We Love Equity Real Estate Show, where we speak with beginning investors all the way up to high achieving investors, so you can get a myriad of content, from learning how to fix and flip, or doing, multi-million-dollar real estate syndications, to doing your first rental property. So I talk with a lot of investors there on the We Love Equity Real Estate Show.
Last words in regards to everything we talked about?
Man, just have that belief and get out there and do it. If it's something that you aspire to do, it's within your realm of possibilities and capabilities to get out there and do it. You just have to find the right educator, the right mentor that will lead you in the right direction. So it's out there. If people want to talk to me and get more information from me, you can go to my website, Marcus E. Maloney, marcusemaloney.com. And I do like a 15-minute free consultation. So if you want to know if you're headed in the right direction, just jump on the phone and we'll talk. Again, it's no sales pitch or anything like that. I just genuinely like to try and help people find that niche and that passion and their desire, and help them steer them in the right direction.
Great. Thanks, Marcus, for being here on the show. It's nice meeting you and talking to you. I hope everybody found some value and they learned some stuff. I'm on that, if you're listening on wherever you're listening to the podcast, whether it's audio and video, make sure to follow and subscribe. Leave a comment if you on